Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate and observe. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network. And I am so grateful to be able to spend this wonderful holiday with you, celebrating people from around the world. Our show today is the Corner Bookstore, and we are at a special time just for today because of the holiday. And a big shout out to DIANN, FLOYD, BOEHM, my co-host and friend, who is celebrating the day and has the day off. So this is a show where we recognize authors from around the world and help celebrate their work and have people understand who is the person behind the writing of the book and what was their intention, what do they want you to take away from their work. So today joining us is someone who's been on our platform before, which always warms my heart when people come back and see us. Her name is Lynda Faye Schmidt. She's an author, and she's here to talk with us about a journal that she recently published. Let's welcome her to the show. Hello, Lynda Faye Schmidt. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for having me back. I had a wonderful time the first time I had the opportunity to chat with you, so I'm really looking forward to today. And happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Thanksgiving and goodness and grace to you and to your family. And thank you for getting up early to be with us today. And for those who are not familiar, you're joining us from Canada, correct? Are you traveling? You're always somewhere.
I'm actually in Panama.
Cool.
Yeah, you had asked me what my latest updates were, and that was going to be my very first one. Is I moved from Saudi Arabia to Panama on July 31st. Wow. So this is my home office now. This is my life.
Tell us what life's like in Panama. I've actually been there before for a work program, but tell us what it's like to live there.
Well, I suppose it's different for everyone, but for me, it's bliss mixed in with some challenges here and there because, of course, it's a different culture and a different language. Spanish is mostly spoken, and I'm attempting to learn that the best that I can, but I'm finding it not that easy to pick up a second language, but very motivated, and I practice, and I don't worry about whether I'm getting it right or not. I just engage in conversation to the best of my ability with local people who speak Spanish. There's something about the energy here. I don't know if you experienced it, Dr. Jacalyn, but for me, as soon as I arrived here the first time in 2015, I really felt I could feel energies, and I really felt the energy of the place for me resonated as positive. It resonated as welcoming, as really tranquil. And the nature here is just exploding in every way you turn. There's the ocean, Pacific Ocean on one side, there's the Caribbean Sea on the other. There's jungle and forest, and it's just so beautiful. And just even out my own backyard, there's a jungle. So I really enjoy that opportunity right out my back door to go sit and be still and meditate in the quiet backdrop of nature.
Oh my gosh, it sounds stunning. Congratulations. That is a wonderful milestone achievement. So Lynda, as a writer, and you just talked about nature and being able to center and focus, do you feel that things are coming to you in an easier way, or it's more free flowing, the thoughts, to be able to take what's in your head and put it onto paper?
I do. I think it's like anything. When you use something frequently, you develop the skill or the muscle or whatever it is. So similarly with your fitness, if you kind of do it in stops and starts, you're always starting over and you don't really find your flow the same way as if you have a regular routine. I feel like that with the writing, that the more I get experience, the more books that I write, the more I develop a practice that is really engaging and continuous. So I write every day, different days for different amounts depending on where I'm at in my process. And I start it with, like you said, that centering with my journal time every morning. And so when I write a journal, I'm not just talking about it. I live it. I have journaling is part of my lifestyle, along with fitness, along with yoga, along with meditation, connecting with people, eating good food. I just am so blessed. And I do feel that the more I live my authentic life, the more my authentic life manifests.
It's beautiful. It really is. And you are a full-time writer, which is different than me. I've written 2 books. I have a 3rd one coming out, but I don't do it full-time. I'm doing this full-time. When you're writing full-time, that's a major commitment. And I'm wondering if you can share with our audience, is there ever any pressure that you feel, or is it always, this is a joy, I absolutely love this, or it's like, I've got to get more words down, or how do you feel about it?
Well, I'd love to say that it's always a pure joy, but that wouldn't be truthful. It's often a pure joy, and I don't feel that it's difficult for me to sit and write, but I do feel that after a certain amount of time, it starts to get a bit dried up and I start to write drivel. So I can't just sit down for 8 hours as a full-time job and write solidly. I mix it up with, I start fresh with my creative writing the first hour. And then when it's starting to feel like I need a break, I might do some movement, or I might do a different task, or I might just do something around marketing or social media, design work. There's so many different elements, as you well know, towards creating a book. And then I get back to it. And sometimes even within the writing process, it's really creative. It's a scene that's developing, or sometimes it's more work around research. Sometimes I'm looking at my outline and thinking I need to flesh this out, or this character is not very well developed. So it's a very organic process, and I'm attesting to be an emotional creature. So my emotions can run the show sometimes, and that's where the meditation comes in, of learning to channel that. And even with those mindfulness practices in play, I find sometimes I have a rough time. Sometimes I get too caught up in my mind, too worried about the pressures, too striving to be better, more. And I have to constantly work at calming myself and saying, all is well. It's okay. Be who you are, and life will unfold. So
thank you for that transparency. I appreciate it. And as you just touched on, you really do write and speak from your heart. You're a great storyteller. What is it like when you get feedback from a reader, from a follower, from a fan, that you've touched them in some way, or that you were writing for them, or, wow, I feel like she knows me?
It's amazing. And I can tell by your smile that you can resonate with that in what you do, both as a writer and in this forum, this platform that you present must touch so many people. And I would say that I don't write for the audience, but I still, and I can't get overly attached to positive things, because then I have to also take it personally when I get negative feedback, which does happen occasionally. But I would say for the most part, I seem to have created an open pathway towards positivity in my life, and I more often receive that. When I really touch someone deeply, that stays with me forever, and it's so motivating. It gives me the affirmation that what I'm doing matters, and I do have important messages to share, as most writers do. But we all get our passion and our motivation in different places. And we all draw on our own life experiences, and then we add, that's the beauty about writing, is you can reshape how you've experienced life with your own words and really create new characters and new settings that delve into those issues that are important to you, that light you up. And for me, that's just such a gift. And recently, just after I launched this new book, it's a guided journal, I had a blog tour with the Traveling Pages tours and lots of different reviewers giving me feedback. But one that stuck out for me, her name was DIANN, and she gave my book The Holding. She read the whole series, 10 out of 5, and which obviously is not possible, but to get the point across, I really, it hit home. And then she went on to say that my book changed her life, and really was an emotional experience for her. It got her really thinking about the relationship with her own father and how much it meant to her. So those kind of stories are just so impactful and can really carry me through a lot of the hard stuff.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. That is really, it means everything when someone shares that with you, because you know that they're sincere. They wouldn't reach out and say that if it wasn't the case. And, you know, Lynda, we talked a little bit in the beginning that it is Thanksgiving here in the United States, and you are no stranger to adversity and to transformation. And there are people out there right now. It's like, oh, great. This is another day of the year. You know, I'm still suffering. This is going on. That's going on, especially here in the States, mainstream media. It's like doom and gloom. We've got mass murders, shooting. I mean, you name it, we have it. But there's always some way when you realize that you have to let go and realize that you can't control everything, but you can control how you react and how you show up. And for those who don't know your story, I would love to have you share some of that to inspire people and to give hope.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. And I'm going to jump in with a nice segue when you say about it being Thanksgiving, and some people feel, what do I have to be thankful for? So November, my theme has been gratitude. And for my YouTube video, and as well as for my Musings blog, I really delved into what that means. And there's a line in the poem I wrote for my blog that exactly addresses what you've said about there's always an opportunity, even in your darkest hour, in your very darkest hour, to find a light, to find something that is a learning point, a growth point, to find your own strength. There's an opportunity there, but we always have to take it. And sometimes we need the support of other people to get there. So when you ask about my own story, in relationship to what you're delving into here around gratitude and around resilience and overcoming adversity, I've actually had a lot of adversity in my life, and yet I don't feel put upon. I don't feel like, woe is me. I feel the opposite. I feel so grateful that I had the tools that I needed to get through those things. So it started off when I was very young, having to deal with sexual abuse when I was only 4 years old. And I don't know the complexities, the psychology of why some people can overcome that and some can't, but I do know for sure that the love that I was surrounded in my family, and in particular, the really strong bond that I shared with my father, was a part of that. Now, those are things that you can't choose. So don't despair, listeners, if that isn't your life. And that's one of the things that you feel sad about, is you didn't have a healthy family life. You can still always create your now. You aren't your past. It doesn't define you. So you can choose right now, how do I create healthiness? Well, first I have to figure out what that is. And there's so many resources out there. If you're struggling with your emotions, you can try different kinds of therapy. There's talk therapy, there's art therapy, there's group therapies, there's nature therapy, physical therapy. There's so many different ways to heal yourself. And all you have to do is, and I say all you have to do, and I don't say it lightly, but you have to be open to it. And then you have to do the work, and it's not always easy. And in fact, I feel that oftentimes in my life, when I've experienced the most growth and reward is after a really incredible struggle. So one of the things that really changed my life direction was when the choices I'd been making in my life led to me suffering from a deep depression. I was suicidal, and I actually had to be hospitalized for a short term. And wow, that was hard. That was, I haven't written really about that experience because I think part of getting through that was processing it and letting it go. But I do feel that I had to find every core strength that I could surmise, and I had to look for people in my life that would love me and support me. And I had to put up some tough boundaries with people that weren't doing that, who love me and I love, but just weren't able to support me in the way that I needed. And it wasn't personal, but some people have difficulty with that. So you have to be prepared that sometimes it can be difficult and it might interfere with your relationships. And you might feel like, wow, all this growth is causing me to lose people in my life. But I would come back and say to you that if someone isn't able to support you, you can still love them, but you need to detach a little bit and say, but they're not part of my circle. They're not part of my growth, and just create space for them to have their own journey and you to have yours.
Wow, that was so touching and so authentic. Thank you. I mean, you're being so real here, and I really appreciate that. When you think back to this time when you felt suicidal, and I imagine hopeless. I mean, there's so many people out there right now who are feeling that way. We just spoke to somebody yesterday. What were the things that happened, if you can remember, in the order that they happened, that helped you have a different perspective and want to continue living?
Well, we're going back to 2007. So my memory is going to be a little bit dated, but as I said, it was really impacting. One of the first things, I was sitting in my car. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to turn. I was afraid to go home. I felt really embarrassed by my lack of strength, by my weakness. And I'd been in communication with my oldest daughter, who lived in San Francisco at the time. And I reached out to her and she wasn't there. And at first I felt like, oh my God, she's been my support. How am I going to do this? But then her husband said to me, he thought the most courageous thing I could do was to go and book myself in for some help, because I shared with him that I was thinking about that. So that was the first thing. It's just him saying he believed in me and that it was courageous and not weak to get help. That was the first thing. And that gave me the courage to go and get the help. And so that whole team of people was huge. I saw a nurse, I saw a psychiatrist, and I went for group therapy, and that just started it. And then I went home and I didn't say, okay, my work's done. I wasn't quite ready to leave the dysfunctional relationship that was really a core contributor to my situation. But I learned to put up a few boundaries there. I still needed to give that one last ditch effort before I could let that go. But in the meantime, I went for counseling. That's when I really started journaling faithfully before anything else. So before that, on the tier of to-dos, I was always last. A mother of 3 and a full-time teacher and running a home. And I just never found space for me, or rarely, I shouldn't say never. And I realized I needed to start putting her first. And ever since I made that commitment to me, I've fallen off a few times, but I really see how I can't actually show up in all my strength for anyone else if I'm not that for me, because where my strength comes from is me. So to me, I would say to someone, love yourself for who you are. It doesn't mean you're perfect and you don't have work to do, but you are a human being and you deserve to be loved. So love yourself enough to say that to yourself. Start developing your self-love, and that will grow the other things. And it's going to be slow, so you need to be patient. That would be my advice.
That's so spot on. Thank you. Something that really stood out to me about what you said, because this is what happens to us a lot in life. At that moment, when you were in your car, you really wanted and needed to speak with your daughter. And we're like that as humans. It's like, if I could just speak to this person, if only this would happen, if I could do this one thing. And that's what we think we're clinging to, we're holding on to. And when it doesn't happen, that's when things start to shatter and fall in place. But what a lovely surprise that she wasn't there for you, but he was. And he said what you needed to hear to take action, that to confirm what you were thinking was what you should be doing.
You're right. And you know what was really beautiful about that surprise is the reason she wasn't there is she was on a plane. She figured out how to get the resources together and got the support from her husband. And I can't explain to you, even though I'm an author, I'm supposed to be good with words, because the emotion coming up, as you can see here. But I was in the hospital room in the intake and feeling like just so overwhelmed with fear. The hospital intake isn't the coziest environment. And I looked up thinking it was going to be the guard or a psychiatrist or something, and it was her. And I've always called her my angel. My oldest daughter I had when I was 17 years old, and I wasn't ready clearly to do that, but I just felt so determined. I felt so in love with her before she was born. And so, yeah, I made tons of mistakes, but one thing I didn't screw up is I loved that baby from the second I knew she was in there and till now. Every single second, no matter what has happened in her life, I love her beyond words. And seeing her there, just, it felt like angels. It felt like a movie moment, you know, music and in the field. I just, and there was my strength. And I will never be able to thank her enough for giving me that.
Wow, that's incredible. She was there in person at the moment you needed her.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway for me is we can cling to our ideas, but if we stop clinging and just trust and allow, we will get what we need. You know, I don't want to get into a Bible story moment, but in the Bible, there is a reference about God speaking through Jesus, that the learning that if I care for the birds, they don't reap and they don't sow, and they are alive and they are thriving. What do you think will happen for you? And if you've lost that faith in God and in life can be even more challenging, and it already is, because of, like you said, that hopelessness. Where are you without a faith in something? And so maybe certain religions don't speak to you, maybe a certain one does, but however you get there, my belief is that we're spiritual beings, and if we ignore that part of ourselves, we're going to get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And, you know, I just want to add on something from my own perspective, just a little share. I had to go and get some vaccinations last night because I have to start this new medicine. I have to take all these vaccinations. And anyway, the pharmacist said, you know, you probably will wake up feeling sick tomorrow. You probably have a fever. And I thought, oh, I'm not taking that on. So I said to myself, I'm not going to have a fever. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to wake up. It's Thanksgiving. I'll meet with Lynda. It's going to be great. And the reason I bring it up is people put these little ideas in our head and we cling on to them. We're like, oh, yes, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to have a fever. I'm going to be sick. No, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to take it in. You can. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I understand that's a possibility, but that's not what's going to be my outcome. Right?
Wow. We are so on the same wavelength, Dr. Jacalyn. I love this. I get so passionate and upset when experts in their field tell people really doom and gloom prophecies of how it's going to be, as if they know you better than you know yourself. And I know you deal with some chronic things, and as I do. And I've had different practitioners over the years tell me, if you don't get your A1C into this range, you're going to have complications. You're going to lose your feet. You're going to go blind. You're going to be on kidney dialysis. And that's just terrifying. But here I am, over 30 years later with this disease, and I don't have any of those things. And I'm not saying that all full of myself that I couldn't get those, but I don't live that way. I live with positive ideas in mind, and I project and envision and imagine and write and think and speak about success, wellness, health, positivity, spreading light in the world, spreading love in the world. That's what I want to be. That's what I'm going to be. And at the same time, I accept that I don't know what my whole life journey is about. But again, I trust that it's something that I have the ability with my free will to shape. And so if things happen, maybe not everything I dream about is going to happen. Probably not. But some things are. And some dreams that I've had have come true already, including this move to Panama. But some things I never imagined, like meeting my husband, my current present day husband, my second husband. I never dreamed that. And after leaving that first marriage, I was like, marriage is stupid, never going to happen again. Men are just a pain in the neck. But then I met him and I wasn't looking. And it turns out that if someone is a really good match for you, if they're your soulmate and it's a healthy relationship, wow, that changes the playing field 180. So you have to be open.
Congratulations on all of this joy and happiness. And to your point earlier, we can't know what's going to happen. And why do we want to know? Because that takes away the fun, the curiosity. You didn't know you were going to be in Panama. You didn't know you were going to be with your husband. You didn't know these things. And it's great because look how happy you are. Look how your life has evolved. So I'd love to spend the rest of the time that we have together talking about your journal, what you'd like people to take away from it, and how they can incorporate it into their own lives and their own life plan.
Okay, well, I'll just hold it up here. It's got a bunch of tabs in it with marking, but there's the beautiful cover that I was very pleased with. So it's called The Holding and the Healing Companion Journal, and it's giveaway there. The third book in the series. So the first book I wrote was The Healing, and the second book actually goes back to the beginning, and that's The Holding, and then the Companion Journal completes the series. And so in this journal, I looked at themes and messaging that came up in both books, and then I also went on to talk about some other things to kind of round it out and give it a fullness. So I try to get really deep inquiry going on with my prompts. It's not a lighthearted journal. It's for people who are interested in doing really deep self-reflection and finding that awareness of who they are so that they can do exactly what we're talking about. So I've divided it into 4 sections. And the first section is messages and inquiry from The Holding. There's a lovely picture there from Danielle O'Brien, the photograph for the cover of the book. And I have a quote from the book. William places his hand on the window and stares at his little girl. Something switches inside his heart as a fierce protectiveness is ignited. Daddy's here, he whispers, fogging up the glass. So there's that unconditional love that started right away. And the prompt that I'm going to share today from that section, I was looking at, you said you wanted to talk about themes of overcoming adversity, resilience, and transformation. So I looked for prompts that dealt with that. So this one says, Kate recognizes that a huge part of her ability to overcome the adversity she has faced over her life has been the unconditional love and support she felt from her father. She describes how seeing herself from the mirror of his eyes always had the power to lift her up and bring her inner strength. Is there someone in your life you rely on to help you through life's trials and tribulations? Write a thank you letter to them. And then you have space to write as much as you want to write. So that's the first section. The second section is messages and inquiry from The Healing. And that's the image from Krista Wells. And the healing isn't a place you arrive at, it's a place you discover deep inside. So that's addressing that whole thing of it's an inward journey, self-reflection. Who am I? What are my strengths? What do I need to learn? What are my challenges? And the prompt I'll share from that section is, often in life, we imagine we can run away from our challenges by moving, breaking up with someone, starting a new career, or changing our name. But the truth is, the feelings remain inside of you and can only be transformed through active processing. Reflect on a time in the past when you tried to escape your life. Write your feelings in detail and then see if you can let them go. So the third section is where we get into the newer things since the writing the books and just elaborate a bit more into that authenticity theme that I'm very passionate about. And it's called Uncovering Your Authentic Self. And that's the image from the cover there. And the quote is, "The lessons keep getting harder, but the message is clear. We all have our own work. We all have to create our own life story." And that's right on track with what we've been talking about, Dr. Jacalyn. So the prompt that I chose to share today is, many people report that the mind, or ego as it is often referred to, is their dominant aspect of self. Phrases like monkey mind, squirrel brain, and head dragging my body around are commonly used to describe this. Mindfulness is a technique that has you become conscious of this tendency to quiet down your mind by turning your focus to your body and your breath. One of the ways to achieve mindfulness is through meditation. Put down your pen, set a timer for 5 minutes, and focus only on your breath, which is not easy to do. Then write down what thoughts or feelings came up for you. And I'm going to suggest that whatever comes up will be really integrally related to where you are in your journey and your spiritual connection. And then the final section is living your authentic life. So it's where you take the things that you uncovered, who you are in the section before, and now how do you live that? How do you manifest it? And I write, life is precious. I am precious. All is well in my world. And the final prompt I'm going to share today is, feeling like we're contributing to someone or something bigger than ourselves is an important part of our experience of wellness and joy. How are you of service to your family, to friends, to your community? And clearly, Dr. Jacalyn, you can address that because you are of huge service with your writing, with your USA Global TV platform and all the different programs you run. And I'm sure that that is part of what brings you your joyful quality and nature, because you are always getting filled up with giving. And that's where gratitude is a give and receive. It's a balance.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. That was beautiful. And I want to touch on something because I feel that this is an area that people are still struggling with. When you talk about feelings or situations that happen that we don't deal with, we put them in a box. We can't deal with that right now. I'm very busy. I'm working. I can't. And at some point, we have to go there. We don't want to go there. So my question for you, for people who are curious, is when someone feels they know they have something they have to address, but they know when they open the door and they walk through, it's going to take a lot of courage, a lot of fortitude, and it may pull them away from some of these distractions that they love and crave. And then people may fall by the wayside. They might have to change their life. It's almost like this whole big opportunity is right there waiting for them, but they're afraid because they know the work that they're going to have to do. What would you say to them?
Well, I would encourage them that all the things that they're afraid of letting go or falling apart while they don't do that will likely fall apart anyways if they don't do it, because that is your foundation. If your foundation isn't strong of yourself, you're not going to be able to manage all those things anyways. But then I also think that if you aren't prepared for that work, you probably won't be successful. So if there's a balance of determining what is the right time. I think it's totally reasonable to set it aside until you are ready, knowing I have to prepare myself. I have to think about what supports I'm going to need. I have to think about the time frame around real life commitments that I've committed to and I can't just forget about. But I can't just put it aside without knowing that I'm going to attend to it. Otherwise, we tend to forget about it. And then it sits there and it simmers and we're not even conscious of it, but it's creating negativity. And that might be toxic energy that is creating illness for us, or in our relationships, or in our workplace, or in our creativity around our life, in any of the ways that it shows up. So that would be my advice, is don't rush into it, but don't ignore it. Address those things and then do it knowing that when you come out on the other side, all of those other things are going to be so much easier. They're going to be in flow and you aren't vulnerable to that buried stuff erupting unexpectedly and totally knocking you off your feet. And now you're going to have to go deal with it. It's going to be even more work because you weren't prepared. So I don't think there's a way out. So you might as well just, it's like when you see a storm coming, you can't not have the storm. So get your house ready, get yourself ready, stock up, whatever you need to do. You know, be active in your life. Don't be a victim. That's what I would say.
I love that analogy that you just gave about stocking up and getting yourself ready. That was brilliant. And just as a follow-up question about that. So when we think about this golden opportunity to take what we shoved away somewhere, all the pain that it caused and maybe dysfunctional behaviors that came as a result of it. To me, there's something so liberating about being able to write it down, as opposed to making phone calls or having one-on-ones with people to tell them how we feel about something that happened 15 years ago that may or may not have any positive outcome. I can write it down. I can put it out to the universe. I can even rip it up if I want, or scribble it out, or whatever it is. Tell us a little bit about how the cathartic writing part of it is super beneficial, as opposed to maybe having confrontations with people in person, on the phone, etc.
Well, I agree with you so wholeheartedly on that. When you look to someone else, you're kind of missing the point that your feelings are your responsibility. Even if you think it's because of something the other person did, it isn't. What they did might have been unkind, it might have been not thoughtful, whatever, but you choose how you react to everything. And so how you're feeling is your responsibility. And when you reach out to them, even if it's in a kind way, they may not be able to receive it, and it could actually end up taking your wellness journey down the drain further instead of bringing you up. So when you write, you actually have the opportunity to fully transform your process. You're in control, you're in the driver's seat. And that's probably one of the reasons I love writing. But, you know, I know early in my therapy journey, I did that. And it was the advice of one of my counselors. I had a relationship in my life that was really challenging me, and I didn't know how to move forward with it. And I wasn't sure that the person would be open, and was probably right. And so she said, write a letter to her as if you were going to give it to her, exactly what you want to say from your heart, and then write back to yourself from her in how you want it to be received. And even though that might sound silly because it's not real, it's so powerful. I didn't need my person in my life to say what I needed to hear. I needed me to give that to me and say to myself, it's okay, Lynda. You are a human being worthy of love, and you've made mistakes. And that's not the point. You say you're sorry and they forgive you and you move on. And if they can't do that, that's not your responsibility. You can't be perfect. It is absolutely impossible. And so you have to be okay with doing your best. And you might think some other people doesn't seem like they're doing their best, but they are. Each of us is doing our best, and there's no value in comparing, because that's not for you to sort. That's for them to sort. You need to focus on your own life, your own sphere, and your own influence. That's where your power is.
Absolutely. Take back your power. And just to conclude for that topic, I also feel that sometimes we're so desperate for an apology or a reason. Why did you do that? I can't get past it. I need to know. But that doesn't matter. It's not going to change whatever it is that happened. What will change is forgiveness. What will change is accepting that you couldn't control that situation and that you have the power to say, I forgive you. I give you grace and I walk away, whatever the case may be. There are so many people I know that are constantly holding on to this anger, this doubt, this uncertainty, and somebody else is going to fill that void. No, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah, they want to put the blame somewhere because they are not ready to do the work, or they're just uncomfortable, or they just don't even have the awareness. But I love what you're saying about the forgiveness. It's a huge aspect of wellness for yourself and for other people. It's something that grows and multiplies the more you do, similar to a gratitude practice. And it doesn't mean that you accept people being disrespectful to you, but you also accept that they're coming from their place of whatever their history is that you don't know. You know that you can't change the past and make things better for them. So you don't accept it from them, but you also don't hold anger or ill will towards them. There's a huge difference. You detach a little bit and you love them from inside your heart, but maybe you don't hang out with them too much because their negativity is destructive for you. It doesn't mean you don't love them. In fact, I think it's a higher love that is not selfish, that doesn't demand them anything from them. It doesn't demand they love you. It doesn't demand that they show up and hang out with you and make you feel good. It says, I'm going to take all that on, and anyone who wants to join me, you're welcome. And anyone who isn't able to, I send you loving kindness anyway. I wish you well. Even the people who have been really unkind to you, you can still wish for them wellness. You can still wish that they could discover some tiny part of them that is good and learn how to bring that up into their life and learn how to not be full of anger and those negative feelings. But at the end of the day, all you can choose is your own behavior, your own circle, your own words, your own thoughts. And when I say all, I mean that's a lot. How we think about ourselves and the life is so powerful. We're creative beings, and it matters.
Yes, it does. And we're going to close today with love and kindness. I think that is really key. And of course, practicing meditation, loving kindness, meditation, there's so many ways to be thankful, to be grateful, to be appreciative. And I am certainly all of those for you being here today. And so thrilled for your new life in Panama and releasing your journal and just all the joy and happiness that I feel coming through these energy waves looking at you today. So thank you.
It's so my pleasure. And yeah, actually, after this interview, I'm heading off. I got word from a friend that my books are now available in the local bookstore, El Hombre de la Mancha. And they have a little English section. That's my neighbor's dog. And he wanted to be a part of it. And so I can't wait to see my books on the bookshelf. And just, I've really felt supported and amazed at how this community has showed up for me here. So I wish you well also on your journey. I hope we get to connect again. I'm writing a book here, so I'm willing to come on.
You know where to find me.
You'll have me.
We have plenty of other topics. You can come on one of our other shows as well. So I'm going to spotlight you. And if you can let people know, we have your information that's in the comments. But for people who can't read it, what's the best way to reach out to you? You mentioned YouTube, your social media presence, where people can find your books, your website. Just let people know if you would. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for offering that. So all of that information is all available on my website. I'm really quite pleased with the design and work and effort that I've put into that website. So the website has information about me, information about all my books, ways to order my books. It has my blog free, and there's tons of them. There's at least 20 blogs on there. There's my different reviews and interviews. This one will get posted on there, and my YouTube channel. So it's all there if you want to browse through and see it all. And it's www.lyndafayschmidt.com. And Lynda is spelt with a Y. So LYNDAFAYESCHMIDT. A little bit of a moment there. And yeah, I'm on social media. I love to hear from people. I love to get feedback and respond. So please stay in touch, get involved, reach out in some way, whether it's through social media, on my website, through an email. I would just love to hear from any of the people who are listening today.
Thank you again, Lynda. Enjoy the rest of your day and celebrate all the goodness and grace that has come into your life. And please come back and see us again soon.
All right. Stay well, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Bye for now. And thanks to each and every one of you who is out there watching or listening, helping us get the word out. We're here to share your story. Are you an author and you have something that you want to contribute? You want people to hear your backstory? Please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. You'll see many options there. This is the corner bookstore. You're welcome to book in for that or any of our other shows. Our next show is coming up. It's called Hot Topic, and we are featuring author Tosca Lee. So please do join us for that. Again, a big thanks and big kiss to DIANN, FLOYD, BOEHM. Have a beautiful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.